Oh, that's horrible. Greetings.
Greetings, it's Nalasha.
And my show, Akoma House Initiative, Art and Science of Black Love Culture, and the Black Love School, culturally based counseling and consulting, coaching for your relationship pleasure. We want to ask a question. We ask a question in the title, and the question is,
what time are you arguing in?
Yes.
Are you in the past? Are you in the present? Or are you in the future?
And this is relevant because oftentimes, so first we want to say that arguing has its place. People oftentimes believe that the goal in relationships is not to argue. That's not necessarily the case. The goal is not to be disrespectful. The goal is to be productive. But an argument is a passionate, purposeful discourse, right? Of things that you might disagree with. You know what I mean? Peace to Darryl Brooks. What's up, my brother? Want to get in tune with you soon and all the good work you're doing. An argument in an intimate relationship has a usefulness. So at the Akoma House Initiative, we always look at purpose. So what is the purpose of an argument and why does it exist? That's not the point of this video, but I'll just say in like 10 seconds. Arguing passionate discourse about opposing ideas has to take place in order to move the couple emotionally to solution. So in order to do that, it's not a typical conversation. It requires more passion and more depth of passion, more demonstration of passion. And when those passionate demonstrations have opposing ideas, we call that an argument. Now, in ratchet world or in dysfunctional Negro world, arguments can go way left and turn into abusive conversations. That's not what we're talking about. That's not what an argument is. That's abuse. But an argument, to be successful in an argument, you have to, because you do want to be successful in an argument, and it's okay to tell your partner, like, I'm striving to win this argument, you know what I mean? Because we're having an argument right now, so I want to win it. But what we're talking about today is if you're in the past or in the present or in the future. NyaAkoma to Khadija Abdullah.
NyaAkoma.
So go ahead, break it down.
So this happens in a lot of conversations. Most people are bringing something up in lifetime, so in the present. You might be triggered in the present, but most of us, we have our patterns where we either go into the past and we get stuck there as though the present and the future will always be the past. So we bring up, that's like what you did, last week, last year, or that's like what my ex did or my parent did, or, what happened to me in another job. A lot of times those things where you do need to learn from the past. You don't want to be limited by past experiences, especially in a relationship where the purpose of a relationship is growth, character development. Those are all, life forward things. So a lot of times we just don't know how to take the lessons from the past and embody them in the present to make ourselves different. We hold ourselves and we hold other people to whatever we've been able to do in the past. And that can be good if it's really setting a real standard. But even then, you want new levels of excellence, right? So if you're great at something, you don't not want to top that and move forward, whether that is money, communication, sex. If you're saying, hey, great, this is a level 10. I'm good with this just being like this. Most people aren't like that because we're meant to expand. Other people, though, are what we call worriers. So those are people who make the prediction that the future will not be good. And there's a difference between arguing, again, limiting someone and having the future just keep repeating over and over, or limiting yourself. And there's a difference between, anticipating a challenge and looking for a solution for the future and just worrying and, being like catastrophizing and making everything be bad because you're afraid again. So typically people who are in the past are afraid of the past repeating, and people in the future are afraid that for some reason things won't work out, or they won't be able to perform, or they can't really have trust in the other person. And all of it comes back to, like Masha was saying, what do you want to happen? And most of us kind of don't know what we want to happen. I think sometimes we think we know what we don't want to happen. And that I'm saying think, because we're limiting ourselves again to the past, where we can say, I don't like what happened before. Or we're limiting ourselves to the future. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. So a lot of times it's not even that we actually know what we want to cultivate in the present. We're kind of just avoiding something that we think happened before, something that we think we experienced, or something we don't want to experience. And that's not actually a good way to go about anything, right? But especially the intimate relationship. It's much better if we can actually know what we want to cultivate and aim to make that happen. So whether that is communication, sex, an argument, really being able to be in the present is very, very, very difficult, because we don't typically have healing of the past. A lot of things go unresolved in our personal life, in our collective lives, in our generational understanding of life. A lot of things are just unresolved, and it's kind of like the elephant in the room. When you have something that's unresolved, it's hard to get your mind off of it and be in the present. Another reason why it's very difficult for us to be in the present is because we don't have relationship education. So just the literal strategy and structure of how to have a conversation that's about now is very difficult. And I think it gets more difficult as, there's distance and there's technology and, there's just a nuance in every generation, something gets added. So if it was like the telephone before, now it's like social media, where you can actually be having conversations that are 2 weeks old if you're late responding to a text message
or
an email.
They way longer than 2 weeks old.
But I'm saying, like, even to just say, hey, I want to have this conversation, we sometimes, even when we think we're in the present, are not in the present, right? So it's just, there's whatever tool you use, whether it's a telephone, whether it's text message, whether it's email, you kind of have to understand the tool as part of the language that you're using. And sometimes we don't really understand that.
Yeah, I would say this, our inability to stay in the present is definitely, for those of us that stay in the past, is unresolved, and there isn't healing. In the future, we fear growing, or that we will be able to execute the growth that we feel like we had. And as Nawasha said, the thing that's going to resolve or reconcile both of those things is relationship education.
So that's what I was saying that the first is the psychological reparation, like true healing and resolution of the past. And then, of course, the relationship education.
Right. I mean, these are the pillars that you will hear us say repeatedly about our work. It is psychological reparation, relationship education, and cultural initiation. These three shuns are very important. I think a lot of times with significant others, we're in the past because things haven't been resolved. We have not grown. We have not, and resolution is not always about getting your way. It is about acceptance of the other person's position. You know what I mean? And being emotionally immature, we want our way. And if we don't have our way now, or an argument comes up that represents something that we didn't get our way in before, we will say that the problem is unresolved. Sometimes that's not true. Resolution comes from just accepting that we can agree to disagree. We may feel differently with our intimate partner on different things, and we're allowed to be individuals as well as a couple. A lot of unskilled people in relationship won't allow you to be an individual. They just want you to be part of their vision, which really means they want you to be them. They want you to think, feel, and act like them. But in arguing, the reason it's so important to stay in the present, to get out of the past and get out of the future, is because it's in the present where resolution happens. Resolution has to happen now in order for something to feel as if you've grown beyond it. Because when conflict arises and you can address it right then, you can actually know right away that a resolution has been achieved. A perfect example is a toothache or a splinter in your foot. Now, when a splinter gets in your foot, you could talk about you had one in your foot in the past, or when a toothache happens, you can talk about you had one in the past. You can think about in the future how it could be different, but it doesn't get resolved until it's removed right now. The moment that now happens is when it's resolved. The same thing is true in relationships. You know, we have poor communication skills in general, although everybody thinks they communicate well, because they're measuring themselves by their own thought process, right? So your partner doesn't have your exact thought process, because men and women process differently, and then individual personalities process differently. But if you are a poor communicator as well, oh, your processing is garbage. So, you know, you can't tell grown adults, especially black people who traumatized and unskilled at relationships, that they don't communicate well. I have never met a black person who said, I don't really communicate that well. Everybody says I'm an excellent communicator. Then why are we having so many problems in relationships becomes my question. But a part of it is, you know, communication is not the only thing we need. It is the gateway skill to all other things. For most people, it is the departure point for when the relationship starts going south, because two brilliant minds who want the same thing can figure most things out if they can articulate their thoughts, feelings, their understanding, and a desired action if they want from each other. But a lot of people can't do this. But the point about staying in the now is that the now is the place where resolution happens. It doesn't happen in the past. It will never happen in the future. You'll be dead before you get to that. It can only happen in the now. So if you can stay in the now, and your skill level is relationship educational skill level is high, you can find resolution. But to Nawasha's earlier point, for most of us, we've had so many disappointments, so many broken hearts, so many bad experiences that we're carrying like the bag man or the bag lady, as Erykah Badu made that song. We gotta get psychological reparation, as Nawasha said. We have to heal pain first. And the thing that heals pain is skill, because it's skill that produces 360 degrees understanding. And when you have 360 degrees understanding, you can even understand your part of the dysfunction from before. So people who stay in the past, it's because of lack of skill. People who dread the future, it's acknowledgement that they don't have skill, and they have a pattern of being unskillful and being unable to produce what they desire in their relationship. People who say, oh, this is an argument, I'm ready to engage and I'm ready to state my claim respectfully and argue my point, then we're different. And again, I ain't talking about Ratchet City and dysfunctional dystopia. I'm talking about a real argument between a man and a woman who love each other and have a passionate disagreement that they need to resolve.
But there is a way to go to the past in order to actually, learn something about yourself and even your current relationship. But most of us just don't know how to do it. So really going to the past and either understanding what actually happened, which takes a kind of neutrality, or redesigning what happened, taking the facts of what happened and making it mean something else is a skill, is a relationship skill. So
that's a psychological skill.
That is a psychological skill that we all need in relationships. So we need to be able to rework the past. This is how you do healthy time travel. Rework the past so that you actually can have resolution and be empowered in the present. And the same is true for the future. There is a way for you to use future projecting and to really say, where do I want to be? This is
my
what people call
my young brother Jason?
goal setting, is when you do it well, right? You project to the future. If you're saying, hey, this is what I want to have a year from now, then you have to be able to work that backwards, right? So you don't want to have fear about the future, but you want to project exactly what you want into the future. And then basically, especially for Black people who are able to move through time in our minds in really creative ways, it's a wonderful thing to really embody the future and then come back to the present and say, okay, what would that future version of myself actually start doing right now to secure that future? But that's not what we're doing. We're doing the opposite of, as Masha was saying, stressing out and having something be unresolved and feeling pessimistic about it, or feeling worried and anxious about the future that we don't think we can actually manifest. So we're doubtful, we don't feel that we're enough, and we think that, you know, whether we say something and we say the wrong thing and project that, or we say nothing, both of those things are wrong, right? So sometimes in arguments, we say nothing for the idea of, I don't want to bring that up, that's from the past, and last time I brought it up, it didn't really work out, and so we're withholding. Or we're like, I'm not going to bring that up because that's going to be a disaster. It was a disaster last time and we're never going to get out of this. It's just a lost cause, right? So sometimes we think, you know, the argument is just the person who's, as Masha said, the toxic, yelling, screaming, breaking things. But it could also be the person who's not saying anything. This idea of not arguing
Stonewalling
for your position is not good either, especially in the most intimate relationship. We sometimes, you know, are more passionate about what we're going to have for lunch in an office, or, you know, where we're going to do, you know, the next activity, conference, or whatever it is. We're sometimes more passionate about those things than we are about the most important place in our lives, which is our relationship. It's the place that restores us, or is supposed to restore us. It's the place where we are supposed to develop and expand our character and embody parts of this person that is a compliment to us. But a lot of times it's those areas of friction where someone is really good at something and someone is not, or someone is interested in something and someone else is not, that we, as Masha said, we want the other person to be us. And then that's the answer for us having a great relationship. Instead of us being able to argue our position for when we're different, instead of us being able to actually even concede, because sometimes arguments are just the other version of stonewalling, right? Where you're just going to be, I said it, so I'm going to die saying it. So just because I'm going down with the cause, I'm going to sink with the ship. Instead of saying, you know what, I wouldn't do that, but I see what you're actually saying. And this is where the purpose of communication, being a mutual understanding and a mind expansion, comes in. If you look at communication as though whatever I'm going to say is going to win this person over, or whatever I'm going to say is automatically right before the other person even starts talking, these are going to be the ways that you or you are helping the other person stay in the past or be in the future. A lot of times when people say things like, hey, this is how it is, or I'm right, that's still a measure of the past, right? And it's also the measure of an absolute kind of future. So being really able to be in the present moment and be curious, to be interested in another person, to really be able to say, my mind is going to expand because of interaction with somebody else, not all 100% because of me and when I choose to expand. That's not really how things work, that we can say, okay, today is Wednesday at 11 p.m. I'm going to read something and that's it. That's how my mind is going to expand. Some of the stuff that we get in relationships is a more divine, spiritual initiation, but we're not actually selecting it. So we don't look at it that way. We look at, okay, I'm reading this book. I'm ready for a download. I'm going to this, lecture. I'm going to do this workshop. I'm signing up for this course or class. I'm going into formal initiation. We look at those things and say, okay, great. I've paid my money. I've signed up. I've cracked the binding, and now it can begin, as though you can press play on it. But some of the most powerful things that will ever happen to you are going to be with the exchange of another person and how you respond to their feedback live time. That's how you really are knowing who you are and who the other person is. And it's so important to learn how to be in the present, because this is something that or I should say, remember, we've unlearned how to be in the present. Most babies are very much in the present moment with their needs and what's happening and, their desires. But we learn how to be on someone else's time. And that is from, oppression, that we learn this in this negative way of being in the past and being stuck to that, or having the most, pessimistic version of the future, where again, we're just limited and boxed in. If we learn our ancestral ways of returning to the past in order to actually learn something to benefit from and embody from the past, that's completely different. That's a return to the way that we use the past. If we also can learn how to use the future, when to use the future, then of course we're returning to an ancestral version of that, our ancestral version of future casting, time traveling. Right now, there's a benefit to going to the future and seeing yourself in the best relationship. When we work with people, we say, what is the relationship of your wildest dreams? And the result, the answer that we get is a result of trauma. 99% of the time, people's first answer is what they don't want. So if I say, we want to help you future cast and get to the relationship of your wildest dreams, most people will say, well, I don't want someone who's going to cheat, and I don't want someone who's a liar, and I don't want someone who I can't trust, and I don't want someone who's going to, not get along with my family. It's a lot of don't, not. And a lot of times when we say, okay, you're kind of painting a picture of what you don't want, but you haven't said one thing that you want. Even when we say that to someone, there's often a pause where someone realizes, and you can let me know in the chat, do you even know what you do want to experience from your own imagination and pure freedom? We say, if you have a magic wand and you don't even have to know how it's going to happen, but it could just happen, what would it be like? And it takes a lot to actually get to that place. The more challenge you have sometimes, the more it takes to get to the place where, what do I want a day to look like, a month to look like, a night to look like, sex to look like, dinner to look like, living in my house to look like? It actually takes the ability to do some of the things that we're talking about tonight in order to let go of past experiences that you may have had and jump to this future that is magical, that you don't even know how it could happen, and then also to be able to describe it. And this shows most of the time that people don't have good communication.
Right.
Because a lot of times
they know exactly what they want. Who wrote that?
Well, I would love...
one of the things I realized about this dynamic is that people know intrinsically that they don't have skill. People don't admit it out in the world, but they admit it in themselves. So when you ask them what do they want, the thing that they say they want, they will put it off on the other person. And this is just a little, we're therapists. Like, that don't work. You know what I mean? The reason that you can't have what you want is always because of you. It's never because of some other person, because it's what you want, which means you have envisioned it, which means you are initiating it, which means you are measuring it, which means you are creating it. And in every relationship, it requires a duality to create it. But I would ask this, if you know, like Jasir said very well, he knows what he wants, and that's beautiful. When a person knows exactly what they want, say it in a sentence, whatever it is, and then whoever you have as a prospect, read it to them when you first meet them. This is exactly what I want. And this is, and be able to explain it explicitly. Grandiosity, what it looks like in a vision, but then practically, what it looks like on Tuesday night at 7 o'clock, or Monday morning, or Friday afternoon. What does it actually look like to have this thing? And see if the person is, opposed to that. Most of the time, the person says, I'm with that 100%. I love it. I think it's a beautiful thing. So then what happens is you don't really have the skill to produce what you want. So you want something, but you can't produce it. Here's the reverse of the question. What you want, how many times in your life have you had it? And if you've ever had it, why don't you have it now? Most of the time, it is because you want something you can't produce. You don't have the skill to produce what it is you want. So that's why it's a want. Because if you had the skill to produce it, you would have it. It's just that simple. So when we talk about,
I think people think what they want is the unicorn idea.
Yeah,
they you know, being pessimistic. Like what I want is so unique.
Yeah, it's that everybody wants the same stuff: companionship, friendship, loyalty, etc., trust, all the other things.
Was really valid because I think most people do the grandiose.
Yeah.
Don't do the practical. So when you say things like, I want companionship and I want loyalty and I want trust, that is something that when you ask someone, what does trust look like on a Tuesday night? What does companionship look like on a Tuesday night? We often don't know the answer to that question, especially to be able to tell someone else that. Because saying that you want someone who is trustworthy, I don't think another person's going to be like, nah.
Yeah. You want to trust somebody? Oh, I'm the wrong person for you.
No one's going to say that, right?
But what you can't produce is somebody. In order to, let me say this to the people who lack vision. There can be no commitment without vision. So I say this to women all the time. The first thing you have to know from a man, because we usually pursue, what is the vision of the man? What is he striving to produce? And whatever he's striving to produce has to be measurable before he met you. In other words, you have to come into his life and be able to see through his production, his ability to produce in his life, that this is what this man really wants. Otherwise, it's Mr. Rourke, a person to tell you all kind of shit. You know, they all have Hervé Villechaize with them, little tattoo. Tell them, tattoo, what they want. You got a hype man, lights, camera, and action. But if a person is telling you what they want, you should be able to go into their life and see this is what they want. Now, most of the time, they probably missing a skill that you bring. But a lot of people talk about what they want, and it's all a psychological vision, idea. It's not something that they're able to show you. People will say, I've been working on something for 10 years, and they'll show you about 3 months of work. Like, you ain't been working on this for 10 years. Like, this is all you've produced in 10 years of work. You know, that's impossible. But you can't tell people anything because we arrogant, we ignorant, or we just foolish. You know what I'm saying?
So and I think it's easy to think about the grandiose. I think it's easy to...
It is.
Like,
it
is
is.
The definition of romanticizing, really. Like, doing something in a distorted way, but saying that is love. And it's easy sometimes, I think, to try to make yourself feel more important. And not saying that you're not important. You're extremely unique and special and important. But sometimes we have an inflated idea of that, whereas talking about the grandiose is distant from the everyday, and it actually is a buffer for not having a relationship. It's a buffer for not having to perform on the everyday, is to keep your idea like a pie in the sky kind of idea that is just so elusive that you're so amazing and unique, and your idea is so profound and the first time that it's existed, that it's just impossible to find the person that you are supposed to be with.
I talked to like over 10,000 people over the last 20 years about relationships. And I have yet to hear something that is way out there when somebody comes to what they want. In fact, what most people want is they want somebody to give them the things that they don't give themselves, right? And so most people are looking for things like, I want a best friend, and they hate themselves. Like real talk. Like, you know, they want someone who's loyal to them, but they're not loyal to their own ideas. You know, they want somebody to be a partner to them, but they're not committed to their goals. So we could go on down the list. And so with this whole video is talking about arguing, because I want to tell everybody who's listening, share this video in the present or in the past, in the future. And I'm going to tell you something about argument. This is the thing that proves. We got this filter on. We in the smoke right now. So if we look kind of smoky, it's because we in the smoke right now, right? We playing around with filters and all crazy. But check it out. Here is the thing that proves you're not good at arguments. The reason you're not good at arguments is because you're not in the present, you're in the past or the future. The reason you're not in the present and you're in the past or the future because you don't have skill. You don't have skill because you've never worked on developing skill in relationship, right? Getting good at relationship does not come from the desire of the heart. It comes from practicing techniques, just like any other discipline. Building a car, teaching at a school, cooking you can't get good at cooking a dish because you really want to cook the dish and you love to eat. You have to practice at cooking the dish, right? So here is the purpose of arguments. All right, write this down. Share this with 1,000 people. The purpose of an argument is to bring you closer together. Now, let me say it again. Let me say it with my hand on this side. Let me say it with the purpose of an argument is to bring you closer together. That's the only reason you're supposed to be having an argument. Now remember, here is the visual. There's something down here that you got to get to. Regular conversation happens up here. So in order to get to this, you have to use something that will break through this crust here called polite society, regular conversation, the daily grind, etc., etc. This kind of tapping, which is regular conversation, won't break this plane to get down here to this nugget you're trying to get to. So an argument has to happen. An argument has to break through this level so you can get down here, right? This is the this is the visual aid.
Cause an argument.
But I'm showing you something, right? This is the reason why we have passionate discourse and disagreement called an argument, because we're trying to break through a level to get to another level that regular conversation or regular interaction can't get through. If you don't ever get to this, you're not good at arguing. If you're not good at arguing, guess what that means? You never get to deeper levels of connection. So when you talk to people, they try to avoid argument. When a person tells me, I don't try to avoid arguments. I try to win them. The way I'm winning an argument is by this measurement. If we got closer together, I won. If she gets closer together with me, she won. So this is where the term win-win comes from. All of you people who are in business, you know the term, it's a win-win situation. Win-win means when both of our needs are being met. Most of us are not good at that. So we avoid arguments like the plague because arguments end our relationships. Now I'm going to the past. This is why our emotional reaction to past conversations or past issues is so tentative and sensitive, because we've never got closer with a person from dealing with the issue, because we don't know how to argue, because we don't know how to communicate, because we have never had relationship education. And so we're in situations where we can't produce what we say we want. So now, when we ask people in intake, what is the relationship of your wildest dreams? This is the reason why, as Nawasha said in the beginning, 99% of the people can't even talk about it, even though they think, and we ask them to write it, even before we get in the free consultation, they can't even write a sentence about it because they can't psychologically make themselves believe that they're doing something, that they deserve something that they know they don't have skill for. So we get people who got a lot of bravado. I want the best relationship in the world, da da da. And we like, you 35. You never had the best relationship in the world yet? You never experienced that yet? If you over 28 and you've never experienced that yet, it's because you don't have the skill to produce it. It's not because people ain't out here. It's not because you can't have it. It's because of you. You lack the skill to be able to produce the best relationship in the world. Because mind you, if you found somebody who don't know jack about relationships and you told them, I want to produce the best relationship in the world, and they say, okay, take me along. If you don't have that, it's because of you. You don't have the skill. If they are willing and present, it's like children who come to school and then matriculate from K through 12, and the teachers talk about them and say they don't have an education. Well, they showed up. They did their part. They came in as the student. You were supposed to give them something that was valuable for their life, not teach them about George Washington or Benjamin Franklin or Susan B. Anthony or something that has nothing to do with their present reality. They check out in the 4th grade. They tired of hearing it. The same thing happens in relationship. People talk in the stars with this grandiosity, but we have done a simple 3-minute technique of communication with thousands of people, and I have never seen anybody be able to master it. Now, some people do okay at it, but never ever have I ever met a couple that can master the technique in 3 minutes.
Right. It's not a difficult thing, but
it's a simple technique.
Something we just don't do. So it's a matter, again, of being willing and knowing how to let go of the past, and also being willing to accept, that you can cultivate the future that you want. And this is really where we are in a lot of our goals. But as you know, we personally believe that relationships are the most important part of our lives, because if you can develop some other parts, you'll still feel unfulfilled, because relationships are how we are seen. It's how we contribute to, community, to life, right? So a lot of times we can feel isolated in business and still feel okay about that. Like, hey, I'm rising to the top. Everybody can't be up here with me. This is business. Or we can say, you know what, I'm taking my personal health into my control, and then I can monitor everything that's about me. I can choose not to go to places. I can pack my lunch. I can supplement. I can work out at home, in a gym, do a ton of different things for my physical body. But when it really comes to how you're going to harmonize with another person, this is where you do the most stretching, I think, because it's not about just you. Like anything that you think as Masha was saying, it gets proven whether or not you really know it by your feedback with another person and what you're actually able to create. So if you're looking around saying, this just isn't how I want a relationship to be, if you care about the person, love the person, it is 9 times out of 10, like Masha said, it's a communication gap. And being personally really just well-rounded in your vocabulary isn't good communication.
Articulating from the heart.
Or as Masha was saying, a lot of times people think arguing is just the idea of being really passionate and immovable. So a lot of times people think that whoever can hold their position longer is the person who's just going to win. And this is why the idea of winning has to be about growth, has to be about harmonizing, has to be about, do you feel closer together? If you feel further apart, this is how you're going to be in the past or be in the future. Because as soon as you feel that distance in the present,
without each other, you're going to be in the future.
You're going to be like, okay, I'm never bringing up this topic again. This is something that we can't talk about. And a lot of times,
I want to be by myself.
We say, this is something they can't talk about, right? We don't really say, this is something that I don't know how to explain. Yeah. This is something that I don't know how to prove my point about. This is something that I'm not really convincing with, or this is something where I am wrong. We rarely say that. We say, okay, you don't know how to have this conversation, so I'm not even going to bring it up again. Or all of those types of things become about the other person's skill level instead of just accepting. You would not accept that from customers. You wouldn't accept that from, a restaurant where you're eating, or like those types of things. You would say, I was really explicit. This is what I'm saying. And somehow we have a misunderstanding and we got to work it out. But when it's an intimate relationship, you're like, okay, there's not a misunderstanding. It's just something wrong with you. Yeah. So the best way for me to get myself into a better situation is to dump you
Right.
and find somebody else.
Right, who I can start this process with again. And then we ask, what do you want from a relationship?
But this is
I
why
want the most. Your ass ain't gonna get the most nothing, but the most repeat.
Like
That's what
Moncho
you're gonna get.
You might be whatever age, having never gotten it. And this is the thing that you have to realize. On your to-do list, right? Is relationship on your to-do list? Is relationship education on your bucket list, your secure list? Like, I see people who want to secure
your
money.
bag list, yeah.
People who want to, I want to have this experience and do this and this and this and this. But nowhere on there is the most important thing, which is your interaction with another person. And we're coming on here talking about communication because it really is the biggest issue that everyone has. When there's an issue with sex, it's typically a sex talk kind of issue, a communication issue. When there's an issue with money, it typically is a communication issue. And somehow you can't get understanding. So communication is not just saying, this is our budget, you're not sticking to it, or I am, or this is, when I want to have sex and how I want to have sex. Real communication is about the mutual understanding. And if you're not getting that, then you need actually to develop in the communication. Because even if you get rid of the person, chances are you're going to meet someone at your skill level. The only way that you would actually get better communication in the next relationship is if you meet someone who's in the mood to teach you, right? It would have to be a person who's better than you, who has more skill than you, who's willing to pull you up. But a lot of times we're not looking like that. We think there's something wrong with that person. I was somehow dating down. And if I could just meet somebody at my level. But what we don't understand is you're always meeting somebody at your level. Yeah. And the only time that you would be better off is if somebody else was dating down to scoop you up.
Right.
And that's not going to happen because they're going to want somebody at their level.
Especially for us as men socially, that doesn't happen a lot. Even some of the sisters who have the little, even the May-December relationships where, the woman is 45 and the dude is 25, she's just emotionally 25. And so she's dealing with people on her level. But, we say this often because, listen, man, we talk to a lot of black people about relationships. And I swear to you, you hear the same 4 or 5 things over and over. When I'm talking about a lot of people, I'm talking about 16 countries full of black people that we talk to annually every year from all over the world at all different relationship levels. And we've been doing it for going on 20 years. And I haven't heard a 6th thing yet. It's like 4 or 5 things that everybody talks about. And it has shown me around the world that we don't have relationship education. And that's why we created the Black Love School. And right now we got couples and singles from about 11 of those 16 countries.
And we're starting the communication cohort.
In the Black Love School. And so we are starting the communication cohort. And I want to talk about that in a second. Let Nawasha introduce that because we want to talk solutions. Every time we come to you, we don't want to just talk craziness. We want to talk solution. I always want to talk some craziness because I like to break through those exteriors that we have. You have to take a hard look at yourself. Look, if you are 28 years old and you haven't been in at least 2 of the greatest relationships of your life, your relationship education is probably at a 4 or below, straight up. If you are like a lot of people we see, most of our clients are not even 28. Unless we contract with organizations, schools, and other things, we can deal with that 14 to 28 years old. Most of our clients are over 30. A lot of them are like between the ages of 35 and 65. If you have not been in the only thing I'm accepting is that you've been in 2 of the relationship of your wildest dreams and they both died. And that's why you're not in one now. If you are not that person, and I probably met like 0.2% of those people out of, like 20,000 people. Everybody else has a gap in their relationship skill. They want something that they don't know how to produce. Many of them do not know where to go to get the skill to produce it, or they are either arrogant, ignorant, or foolish, right? So the foolish think they have more time than they do, and you really don't, and you already so old past 35 that if you don't make getting a sustainable relationship the priority in the next 15 years, you are going to die lonely. The ignorant don't understand that this is the most important thing in your life. You can chase every other pursuit in your life. Other than your health, nothing is more important than this, because you want to be alive. So you got to have health. But right after that, you got to have thriving relationships to even measure whether you're alive or not.
And actually, thriving relationships help you
stay healthy. Right. So they're like almost one and the same. And then the arrogant believe it's not them. It's just everybody else. Like, yo, you stay away from us with the corny shit that is everybody else. Like, because we are laser, we can go through that. There is no way in the world with 1,000,000,008,000,000 black people. There's 540 million people of the complement sex on earth. And you trying to tell me people playing games out here, nobody ain't to listen, this week, it's Wednesday. 2 dear friends have died. I've been in 4 meetings at a round table with a bunch of millionaires. I've been in a Zoom call up in Newark with Mayor Ross Baraka and 75 of the power, heavy-hitting people that's in Newark, movers and shakers, getting money, doing things. Newark, New Jersey is a mecca of black power right now. And they got all kind of problems, but they got like many, many soldiers on deck that got all kind of skills, got all kind of on this big Zoom call where we're working together on this large project. And I'm just listening to everybody speak and what they do and how everybody is doing their thing. And I'm doing my part. And it's like, yo, I can't, life is short. So don't be foolish. You all can grow way more than where you are. So don't be arrogant. And you are going to have to get some education to make relationship work. Don't be ignorant. So if you are in arguments, understand, arguments have to bring you closer together. If they're not doing that, then you're not even having arguments. You're just dumping psychological dysfunction and all kind of ratchetness onto each other. And that's what's happening for 99% of the people. Real talk. Put a 1 in the chat. Matter of fact, put a picture of yourself in the chat. If most of the time you argue, you get closer together with a person. Keep it a buck. And I guarantee you that's not most people's reality, because then we would be looking for conflict. We would be looking for discourse that's passionate. Because why? We know that it will bring us closer together. The closest that most people get to this is makeup sex. So we say all kind of hurtful things, hurt each other, and da-da-da-da. I used to be in one of those kind of psycho relationships like 30 years ago. We saying all kind of stuff, hurting each other, throwing shit around, being violent, all kind of stuff. And it's like, you want to have sex? Like, cut it out. Cut it out. You know, it's ridiculous. So cut it out. So we are offering solutions. We have 4 to 5 solutions for every relationship problem that's out there.
But the one that we really want to encourage you to come with us through is the communication cohort, because this is the best deal for your money, for your investment. And it's also the best use of your time because it's a collective. So this is a way that we learn more outside of our personal experience. We're able to actually
peace
learn
to my dear friend David Austin,
and learn in the future, because when people are sharing their experiences, we learn from them also. So a group dynamic is how you really do initiation. So this opportunity, which is starting on March 22nd,
yes,
is an opportunity for you
next week
to come along with us and improve your communication. And this is good for you if you are single. This is good for you if you are in a partnership and it's just the beginning. It's good for you if you're in a long-standing relationship, because this is about deepening intimacy. And the other thing that is really unique about this is that it's not just the relationship education
No.
from this kind of counselor perspective, It is actually a return to ancestral wisdom. So this is going to be how you communicate without even using words, how you really use the
ritual,
the idea of ritual and how you can make your own rituals, but also you'll get 7 rituals that we have used with our clients that really work to deepen intimacy, to build trust, to
resolve conflict.
So to start forgiveness, right? So
Right.
all of the major things that people say that they want, there really is a way to ritualize that in a relationship where, again, returning to your ancestral wisdom, you're able to use the elements to add to a layer of communication. So we kind of know to do this instinctually, but we're going to share with you how to really implement this over the course of 6 weeks, where you're going to improve your relationship communication, your ability, your actual skill set is going to improve. You're also going to have rituals to do and to learn how to do so that you can even put them in your toolbox and rework them. It's kind of like having ingredients, right? If you get 7 ingredients, you can sprinkle some of one in with another and, have a dash of 2 or 3 and, pour in a lot of another one. So once you actually learn how to use some of these things, your own creativity is going to speak to you and your own connection to your instinct and your intuition is going to speak to you. But this is a foundation for really understanding how to communicate from an indigenous perspective. So what do we really need in a practical way? But also some of the grandiose things that we need to be working towards so that our relationships deepen and deepen and deepen. Because we have a lot of different kinds of complaints. When you're looking, people say things like what Masha just said, nobody's out here. I can't really know. I don't know how to connect. But some of that is because we aren't magnetizing that level of vibration.
Right.
So we have to learn how to actually.
You're not over 28 and you can't find who you're looking for.
We have to
Stop
learn
saying
how
that.
to
That's
do
ridiculous.
It. But part of the course is going to tell you how to rework your thoughts. So today we're just talking about arguing and being in the past and being in the future. But the truth is there's a part of what we have to learn, which is how to even be aware of our thoughts and how those thoughts are holding us back. If we are saying things like that, sometimes we don't even know we're saying it. Right? There's a lot of polite,
I know your ass saying
complaining in our culture where we complain in order to bond with each other. So when we have a problem,
it's trauma
easy
bonding.
for us to say there's nobody out there because the other person gonna be like, right, there isn't. And then we feel more connected to that person when we really need to be connecting to our soulmate, right? But we're buffering the problem. Instead of actually resolving the problem, we're using the problem as a way to connect with other people. So deep down, there's a part of us that doesn't even want to let go of the problem because it's our only simulation of connection to another person.
It's our identity. And anytime you shake up a person's identity without giving them a new one, they fear that so much they'd rather trauma bond.
So we're going to put the link for the communication course in the comments. And we hope that you join us. This is the absolute best price that you will ever get this on. Because after this cohort, the price is going to be going up. So this is the time to join. There's a once-a-week commitment. Everything is pre-recorded for you to learn. But you also have the opportunity to be with us live every single week to get your questions answered and to connect with everyone else from all around the world who are joining you in the cohort. So this is a great opportunity for the foundational skill that everybody needs. And you'll actually be able to, this is geared, of course, catered towards the intimate relationship, but some of these things are universal truths, which are going to help you in business communication, in communication with your family, and truthfully, in communication with yourself, because you really have to clear up what are the words that you say, what are your pet words and pet phrases, what are the things that you think, what is the way that you're showing up and your level of expectation? And everything starts with the self when we are talking about relationships. We want you to be able to have the relationship that you want. And I'm talking about the one of your wildest dreams, to be completely fulfilled with your life because you only have one life on the planet. And life is better when you have better relationships. Life is better when you can be authentic and be yourself and be affirmed and loved for that self. And that's what we really want for you. That's what we want for ourselves. And that's what we want, again, like if we have something to share, we want everyone to level up, right?
Yes.
Because it's good for us as a community to have better relationships, to be more fulfilled. When you're more fulfilled, you are better able to live your purpose. because you're going to be restored if your purpose is grand work, or you're just going to remember your purpose because you can find some level of peace. So even in this time that is a crazy time of self-forgetfulness, relationships are the thing that is like a salve, right? Because it's where you can find restoration. It's where you can find affirmation. So just painting yourself into a corner and isolating yourself is not going to do it. And that is a reflex to us being hurt and not getting our way from a very young age, even, right? From childhood, sometimes we are moved away from our purpose. But now you're an adult. You have more control than you think you do. You absolutely have control over yourself. And it's time to accept that for all the things that you have going on and all the things that you say you have to do and that what must get done, your personal development must get done. It absolutely must get done, because when you do that, it makes the other things easier to do. So we hope to see you.
Akoma Heart2Heart.
On the 22nd?
Yes. The program is called Akoma Heart2Heart, Mastering the Keys to Intimate Conversation. It starts on March 22nd, and it will run for 6 weeks. We invite you to come in. You're going to get those purpose workshops. You're going to get thoughts and emotions. You're going to get speaking and listening, active speaking, and effective speaking and active listening, what it is and what it is not, because most people specialize in what it is not. And then you're going to get he say, she say, because men are not women and women are not men. We do not process the same way. We do not think and feel the same way. And even the sequence of our processing, feeling, and thoughts is complementary, meaning like, I'm a Pisces. It's like two fish. You know, you start at 3 and go 2, 1. I start at 1 and go 2, 3. So when I start, you're at the end. When you end, I'm at the beginning. And we don't understand that. I talked to a client today who is a multi-millionaire, and he is in a relationship with a very, very powerful political figure. If I said her name, you would know who he is, right? So he said that a lot of times he feels like he's conceding to her whims, to her desires or whatever, and that he resists that because it doesn't feel like he's in control. And I suggested to him that men have to give the best parts of themselves to women, but they have to develop them with men. Women have to give their best parts to men, but they have to develop it with women. And the reason I say that is because if I'm only ever doing what you are saying that I should be doing, not that I have an issue with doing that, but I want to prepare to give that instead of feel like the person who I love is constantly trying to take something out of me that is not my ideation or how I identify. See, when I feel like I have this and I'm giving it, I've lost no control. When I feel like you see it, but you're taking it before I offer it, it feels like a loss of control, a loss of power, especially for a lot of men. And so we worked on a little technique that is actually in Akoma Heart2Heart to help him see that this is a technique you can use, because we don't give relationship advice. We give strategies on how to move from point A to point B. So I'm not going to give you advice, right? I'm going to give you insight, but then more than insight, you'll forget that as soon as we finish talking. But what you won't forget is a new skill. And I'm telling you all that in this concept of arguing, you don't have skill. If you had skill, you would appreciate arguments. You would look forward to them, or at least appreciate them when they happen, because you would get better at something. If that has not been your history, you need to do Akoma Heart2Heart. What are you going to invest in your relationship development? People talking jazz. We got price points and products and services from all price points, from $42 up to the sky, $42 a month up to the sky. And people acting like there's like 15 different other important things for them to do. I've been to funerals. They never talk about jobs. You know, they may talk about your work, but ain't nobody, crying because you won't be able to come back to work or anything like that. Nobody's missing that. It's the relationships that are the most important thing. The relationships are the most important thing of life. If you don't master these relationships in these short lives, I'm 52 years old, might not have another 52 years. I'm watching my friends pass all around me, 2 this week, one Monday, one Tuesday. Then I found out that somebody who I know, I didn't even share this with you, Nawasha, I'm going to share this with you as soon as the video, one of our matriarchs passed a couple weeks ago, and I didn't even know it, right? So I'm just telling you, if y'all don't master this relationship dynamic, black people put more time debating about the damn Ukraine than they do just developing one relationship skill. What if you develop one skill per month for the rest of this year? You would have 9 new skills that your ass need in your relationship that is going to totally transform. Let me tell you this, mastering like 3 new skills, mastering them, which takes about anywhere from 90 days to 6 months to really, really master a skill. But if you took 3 skills a year and mastered them, your relationship would be out of the frame in the next couple of years. But we just don't do this. And then we walk around in delusion, deluding ourselves and trauma bonding with other fools that's either foolish, arrogant, or ignorant when the help is here. So Akoma Heart2Heart is one of the tools that we have. Now you can sleep on it or you can engage in it at a very, very, very reasonable price that people think we're crazy for offering for a 6-week cohort. Come on and check it out. We're going to put the link in this description. Please share the video with as many people as you know, because you may be arrogant, you may be ignorant, or you may be foolish, but somebody else who knows you and who you are a key informant to, you might could pass this on to them. So share it, man, because we're on a life mission to help people transform their relationships. We're not just in business. We're doing a spiritual calling that has been put on our lives. We want to help people. We want to get better in our relationship. I told the brother today, we got 21 years in and I'm just getting started. I pray for another 21 years to master the stuff that I've learned and been working on for the last 21 years in my relationship. So we are students as much as we are teachers. And in African culture, if you really want to learn something and embody it, you have to teach it, right? And so we said in our first book, we're focusing on this because we were in a demographic when we started many years ago that's most likely to break up. And I just keep seeing friends and other people break up. And when I asked them what happened, what was the discord, what was the irreconcilable difference, the stuff that they tell me is them same 4 things. And I always ask them, did you ever do X, Y, Z? Did you ever get any training on this, training on that? Not training. I just wanted them to change and got tired of talking about it. So I couldn't take it no more. And then they started saying my physical body was my blood pressure, whatever the doctor told. So I left. And that's why relationships are ending. You have no skill. What in the world has made us all believe that we can enter into relationships without the same preparation that we get, the training that we get on jobs, the training that we get for our physical fitness, the training that we get on games? People get more how to do it videos on playing games than we do. I'm talking about video games and stuff like that. I've never really played video games, but I know a lot of brothers and some sisters are into that. People get more training tutorials and watching videos on that than they do relationships. And they so struggle love that they go to the most unqualified people in the world about relationships. Those who ain't in relationships, those who don't have sensitivity, those who don't really love black love, those who is looking to play the blame game on women or men, and those who just want money or something like that. You following them people, but you're not following the real people that's qualified. check our resume, check our thing. I'm not being modest on this point. It ain't a lot of, it's a lot of good people out there, but it ain't millions of people out there that have the pedigree that we have. We're offering you something for real. If you want your relationship communication to improve, if you want the arguing to produce closeness, if you haven't had the relationships of your wildest dreams and you over 28, stop all that profile pic and all that vanity stuff, because it's embarrassing. We are the parent people of the planet, and we are the most unmarried group of people. Now I'm talking to the brothers and sisters in America now, because the UK is kind of the same, but I'm not talking to the brothers and sisters in Africa. I'm more specifically talking to the people in the Western world, including the islands, Canada, Mexico, and the rest of y'all down, in other places, even Brazil, where all of them Africans are. Way more Africans than it is here in America is in Brazil. We are the most unmarried group of human beings on earth because our relationship education systems were broken. Specifically, the enslavement process was about diet, economics, war strategy, and relationships. Those 4 things broke us. And so in our healing and in our mending, we have to have systems, not advice or ideas, an actual replicable system that we can use, because by the time the argument go down, if you don't have the system practiced or written somewhere or easy to grab, it's already too late, because the dynamics of an argument can go swift and changeable and quick, and somebody can say something that's so hurtful or so devastating that you will be holding on. You ever meet these very sad people who are talking about a breakup from 6 years ago? Because there's no growth and there's no healing. Only relationship education is going to do that. We are offering that with Akoma Heart2Heart, a live cohort starting, a week or so from now? What is it? It's exactly a week from now, right? 7 days. Come get it. We're offering it to you at a very affordable price. This is two payment plan for the financially challenged. We all got issues, so that's no disrespect. Hey, listen, man, it's here. So on that, I'm going to say we appreciate your time. Please share this video. This is Mansho and Nawasha Edu, MHS DSKM, SW, WMW, and what else? I think that's it. I got all of our letters, right? The Art and Akoma House Initiative, culturally based counseling and consulting, coaching consulting, and the Art and Science of Black Love Culture, the Black Love School, and Akoma Heart2Heart, the system of mastering intimate communication. Come get with us and get your love on. So we appreciate your time, and as always, we greet you in the universal words of Black Love Culture, and we say,
NyaAkoma.